Is Matoiv. I want you to look at the beginning of Perek Beis, okay? The first line. In Perek Aleph, we spoke about Chesed, right? We spoke about Chesed. Now, I gave you 3 shiurim on Perek Aleph. The first shiur was a shiur klali on the whole Hemshech. The second was a sort of a Higoyen shiur on the Hemshech. The second shiur was on Chesed. And the third shiur was on the 3 different madregas of Chesed, of which this Maimon speaks. And we looked at Perek Kuf Chavav, where the sugya is finished. What's an equivalent of Chesed? That it's Eid safe. But to use Oisiest is a Tnuah Chutzliyes. Chesed is Eid safe, but Eid safe that stepped away from being Etzem. In other words, Atmos of Eid safe is not Chesed. Because Atmos of Eid Seif exists for the sake of Eid Seif itself. Chesed means Eid Seif that steps away from that to be involved in something other. That's why Chesed is called a Mamutza. Chesed is Eid Seif. And it's not just Eid Seif, it's Seif of Kalam. But the mere fact that the inyan of Chesed is that it is involved in the world that's going to come later is already a shinui in the Eid Seif. And that makes it into a mamutza, and that's what Chesed is. And of course, the Machon was a ratz, right? The neshama has a ratz natzmi, the neshama has a will, which is a reflection of the etzem mamish, which is a funny kind of concept. It's going to come up on later, but not for now. But then there's a ratzon for a specific thing. The Eibishter wants to create a world. The klayachal, the point at which the Eibishter wants to create a world, even though the world exists only in the madrega of ratzon, that's already a worldified ratzon. It's a ratzon which is connected to something other than etzem, and that's mamutza. That's more or less what we're in Perek Aleph. So Perek Beis begins v'Inyanu. Perek Beis begins v'Hinei page Dalet. Yodua it is known the haratzon hu bebechinas ser makif. Ratzon is a light which is called makif. Makif in Tanya it says makif. Rabbi has on the table. Yeah, makif means helam. Makif does not mean surround. Because there's no mokem in Ruchnis. Makem, Perek Mem Ches Al Trebe brings in Tanya, Perek Mem, what's Mamala Kalam and what's Sev Kalam. Mamale means Gilui and Makef means Helam. Now what is the rule of Gilui? What is the rule of Gilui? The rule of Gilui is that it's not determined by the Mashpia, it's determined by the Makabah. If I teach you something you didn't understand, there was no Gilui. If I taught you something you did understand, there was a Gila. So Gila is determined by the Makabah being able to receive. So Gila always involves Tzimtzum. Always involves Tzimtzum. Because Gila doesn't mean I gave you. Gila means I gave you and you got. The opposite of Gila is Hevel. I gave you. I didn't give you in the kind of way that you could get. I gave you in the kind of way that I could give. So Seviv and Makif is more.
Gila has to be the Zulos.
Of course. That's a chiddush by you. Translate the word.
Revelation.
To who?
Doesn't have to be to anything.
Then it's not a revelation.
Gili means it's not etzim. No?
Gilui means that's a kumdan. Gilui means that it's not etzim, but a gilui also means that it arrived. Gilui means revealed. That's a simple touch of the word. Revealed. If it goes chutz li'etzim, it's not revealed, it's not gilui. I'm surprised that you're surprised. Of course, Gili means Elazulas. So, Save of Kalamin, Ratzin, which is Save of Kalamin, is Makif. What does that mean? It's Eidin Safe, that although we learned in Perek Aleph, it's no longer Etzem, right? Save of Kalamin is no longer Etzem. Because if Save of Kalamin were Etzem, we couldn't call it the Mamutza. Save of Kalamin means godliness that's approaching worldliness. But Sev of Kalama means godliness that's approaching worldliness without changing for the limitations of the world.
It's not Gilui.
So it says it's Makif, the opposite of Gilui. So there's it's an in-between state. On the one hand, it's not Etzim anymore. On the other hand, it's not Tzimtzum yet. It's not changed. It's just approaching Eilamis, but it's not yet limited to Eilamis. So Sev of Kalalmin, Kesed, or Ratzin is a Gilui of Makif. Gilui of Makif means it doesn't reach you. You don't get it. It's a coming out of the etzem. It may have a connection to you, but it's not adapted, it's not changed for you, so it's makif. As the pasuk says, katzina ratzon ta'atirenu. That the mashal for a ratzon is a tzina. Tzina means a shield. And what do we know about a shield? It's a shirt that you wear around your body. It's not inside you, it surrounds you. So just like a shield, just like a shield surrounds you, it's a mashal for a malbush, a garment which is outside of the goof. The Ratzon operates like a malbush. Okay? Huh? No, it's makav akodev. But it's makif. If we have makav arochek, then it wouldn't be a Ratzon for Elum, it would be a Ratzon atzmi. Makav akodev, when the Eibishter wants a world, that want is close to the world. It's a makav akodev. The only thing which is a makav arochek, what the Eibishter wants himself, which in avodas other means teira mitzvahs, not kavana sabriya. Okay? Now, and he right away says, it separates the tool of Ratzon from the remaining tools. The translation of the word koyach is a tool. Is a tool. Okay, there's three translations of the word koyach. Koyach means the potential. No, read the words. Look inside. The bazem mechulak. This separates koyach Ratzon, the tool of Ratzon, mikol koyach, and the remaining tools.
That one that's makin?
That's right. So the word koyach has three translations. You should write this down. Koyach means a strength, a power. It means a potential. And it means a tool. To use a fancy oisias, a koyach is a mahus tvar ma. Koyachas do not reveal the whole neshama. They reveal the neshama through a specific funnel, like chokhmah, or like bina, or like chesed, like Buddha. Now, Ratzon is called here a koyach. In another place, the Ratzon is not called a koyach. Because Ratzon is not exactly a tool. It's a gili, a nefesh. So this is a shtikele kasha. How do you call Ratzon a koyach? Ratzon is not a koyach, it's a gili. In other words, Ratzon reveals the whole nefesh. And the koyachas don't reveal the whole nefesh. And I would rather not answer the question. I could make up an answer which probably wouldn't be good and certainly would not be correct. But calling Ratzon a koyach is a bit tricky. Because a koyach is a specific expression of the neshama. It's one tool. So there's a difference in koyach Ratzon and all other koyachas. How?
So we're here using as a tool.
He translates koyach means a tool. Shekulam boim bebechinas pnimi. All the other koyachas, with the exception of Ratzon, come into a light which is pnimi. The translation, the word pnimi, is gilui. Pnimi means gilui, just like makav means helm. It's the translation of the word. It's the chidish, it's the taich. Pnimi means revealed to the zulas. And it's only pnimi when the zulas gets it. So all the koychas are pnimi. Koychas are ruchnias. Seichel is a koyach. Chochma is a koyach. Bina is a koyach. Chesed is a koyach. They're ruchnias, but they're specific tools of the ruchnias of the nefesh. They're going to go into the different eivot. If you learn Pedic Beis, you know what I'm saying. Into the different organs, different limbs of the body. And they're going to match in a way of Ayin Pnimi. The Keli is going to reveal the Koyach. Ukafishi is by the common in Pedic Beis. If you learn Pedic Beis, you understand this. Ratzon is also called the Koyach in this Maimed, in this Pedic, but it's not Pnimi. It's Makif. It doesn't come into the goof in the way that's revealed in the goof. It comes into the goof in the way that it forces the goof, as you've seen in the Pedic, but it's not revealed. Shekulam, all the koychas, except Ratzon, boing bebechinas eir pnimi, come in the light which is revealed. Bebechinas eir bekeli v'chuli. The light goes into the vessel as received by the vessel. That's the criteria for koychas. And Ratzon is different. Now, the Rebbe started talking about Ratzon, talking about Kesed. The first page about Kesed. Why? Because the Gemara is about Kesed. B'shosh yikdimu Yisrael nasal nishma k'sonim. So the whole Pedic Alpha is about Kesed. The first we learn Pedic Beis is about Kesed. And then he juxtaposes Kesed with Eir Pnimi, Kech Pnimi. You know when it goes back to Kesed? On page Kuf Tes, in a couple of years. If you have the new print, the page Kuf Tes. At the end of Pedic Memches, if you'll take a quick look, I'll show you. On page Kuf Tes. Kuf Tes, you have it? Yep. New second paragraph. Av al ha'ed ein safe, ein b'shvil ha'ed, kim gilui min ha'etzem. And at some place in this Pedic, he gives you the dugma of Ratzon. Okay? Now in the next moment, Eike, v'ata Yisrael.
With ein b'shvil ha'ed, how's it a gilui?
Huh?
With ein b'shvil ha'ed, how's it a gilui?
It's not a gil, it's a makif. It's not a gil, it's a makif. Okay, you got to learn Ayin Beis. I can't teach. I'm just showing you.
Okay.
No, keep looking. Perek Mem Tes begins Ubi Ero'enyan. Okay? And this is the sugya of Ratz. This sugya of Kesed. And this sugya goes on at least till Rosh Hashanah. In other words, Ekev, Re'ei, Sheftim, Kiseitze, Kisavi, goes on at least till Rosh Hashanah. And then after Rosh Hashanah, there's a shtickle on the sugya. But this is sugya very insane. For those of you who have learned Samach Vav, if you learn from Ekev and Vaited, and this Hemshech, it'll sound very similar to the Chodesh. Because he's speaking Erin Seif. But all of this, Perek Aleph, he speaks about the Ratzon and Kesed. He goes to Achei Temimim. He doesn't get back to Achei Makivim until Mem Tes. Till next year, as you said it. So I just appreciate what's going on. I'm wasting time to do this, because for me it's important that you should see what the Rebbe does. He starts a sugya at the beginning of Perek Beis. He's not going back to this for 100 pages, 105 pages to be exact. Okay? So the Rebbe starts talking about koiches. It was talking about koiches. Okay? Now let's have our conversation about koiches. I got 32 minutes. I'm going to try and give 2 shurim on this Perek, and if everything works well, on Wednesday, Mitzvah Shem, I'll ready to start Perek Gimel. I'm got to move a little faster. Hopefully today and tomorrow. Hopefully. We'll see how it goes. Okay, let's start of koiches. Okay? And the kashas on this sugya, and the stiras on the sugya, and the different shitas on the sugya are very, very subtle and involved. There's a lot. Nothing is simple. The sugya of koiches is the following. It says in Tanya Perek Nun Aleph. Perek Nun Aleph in Tanya, you have a very long mashal, right? The longest mashal in Tanya is Mistame Perek Mem Vov. It's a whole amid. Kamayim Aponim Laponim, the king of it. But the second longest mashal in Tanya is Perek Nun Aleph, chapter 51. A whole page about the neshama going into the guf. He speaks about the idea of the neshama going into the guf. He speaks about the word hislapshus. Okay, anybody tell me my translation of the word hislapshus?
I fell asleep by that part.
It means gilui. Hislapshus means hislapshus means epidemi. It means gilui. Something is mislabish when it's revealed in the zulas. Hislapshus. Okay? So he says like this: the neshama in Gan Eden is koyach echad ruchni posher. It's a singularity. If you or me to neshama, it has no parts. There's no brain. There's no heart. There's no mouth. There's no mind. There's no hands. There's no feet. There's no distinct. There's one accord of life. Okay, but then the Alter Rebbe says tayag minis keches v'chayes klulis babakech. There's 613 different keches v'chayes. Powers or tools, energies, and life hidden within it. Now, how could you have both sides of the same coin? That one side of the coin there is keich echad ruchni poshet, and the other hand there has the. It depends who you ask. If it's the Ramach, if it's the Arizal, if you ask this maimer, if this maimer, it's not simple. It's very, very complicated. But the Alter Rebbe wants you to go away from that page. If you'll take out, if you learn Kartainti, you can learn the first page of Perek Nun Aleph. You read the Machon, and the Alter Rebbe is literally saying 2 opposite things. Saying the neshama has no shaychus to detail at all, and on the other hand, the neshama includes detail. It's presented as a paradox. Now, what's the teretz? I don't know. I know the teretz, but I don't want to give you teretz. The kasha is better than the teretz and more important than the teretz. The neshama is posher, but from the neshama there's koiches. How koiches emerge from the neshama is the thing but this is the fact. The neshama is absolutely one, and from the one of the neshama emerge koiches. Why? Because the way the Eibishter created life is designed to be maximally harmonious. The way that there's a lot of bachar missing. Am I correct? A lot of people missing. Are they not here, or they're not interested?
Some people went. I think somebody went to a wedding.
Okay. The Eibishter designed life in the kind of way that when life and the body join, their meeting is so harmonious that the body itself is living. The neshama goes into the guf, And the neshama goes into the guf in the kind of way that we say, Chai noisei etzatzmei. The body is alive, not the body has life, and the life comes from the soul. The body itself becomes living. In order for the body itself to be living, the lashon from the Ramah, which Chassidus always brings, Reifei kol basar mafli lases shemachaber ruchnis v'gashmis. One of the great wonders of the Eibishter is he puts an neshama and a guf together, and like it says in Siddur, v'atom mishamra b'kir, but you keep them together. The neshama doesn't go in and run away; it stays there. And this principle of the neshama and the guf joining has to do with a perfect meeting. They become one mamish, yislapshus.
That's why people could deny that there's a neshama altogether.
Well, there's a lot of details there, but certainly that's a part of it. That's why you can deny that there's an Eibishter.
What?
That's why you can deny there's an Eibishter. Because he's so present everywhere, you say that it's the world itself. When the neshama and the guf come together, they mamish become one. They become harmonious. Now, there's different aspects to it. But one of the aspects is that the life of the neshama and the detail of the body match exactly. So your right eye has one neshama, a nefeshel, a specific life designed for that right eye. Your left eye has a different neshama. Your right, this digit of this finger is one neshama, this digit of this finger is another neshama. There's a Machon. This digit, every single part of it has a distinct piece of life which is specifically to it. It can't go into another part of the body. It certainly cannot go into the body of another person, because to use the mezeg, the blend and the balance between the neshama and the guf in details is absolutely precise. Now the lumdus is, which comes first, the guf or the neshama? Does the neshama give the guf its mezeg? Or does the guf give the neshama the mezeg?
Obviously, the neshama gives the guf.
Huh?
Obviously, the neshama gives the guf. No, what's like the starts with the neshama, then the guf comes and it's harmonious.
Okay, it's a good teretz. Obvious is a very inobvious word, but fine.
How do it make sense for the guf to come first?
Because the neshama is pushed.
So it's put into the guf, you're saying?
So you could argue that the details in the guf, the way the Maimonim seem to say is that there's several steps. Step number one, the neshama gives the guf its mezek b'kolos, meaning every body is different. Every body is different. And of course our bodies are connected to our father and our mother. But when the mezek of the neshama, of the guf is determined, the neshama gives the guf a message how it's going to be. Then,
When does this have like conception? When does this happen?
yeah, whatever it is. Then, when the neshama goes into the guf defines the neshama by itself. And then, once the guf defines the neshama by itself, the neshama takes control of the guf and improves the guf, makes it better, changes it. So I'm presenting it to you as 3 steps. Step number 1, the neshama affects what kind of guf you're going to have. As you saw in this pedic, how much Eish you're going to have, how much Ruach you're going to have.
General.
How much
General
Maya.
type, right?
General and specific. How much Afa you're going to have. Each Aver, each
So that's the first
piece.
thing? The first thing you said is the general chai. Someone gives the guf a general...
I didn't say general chayes, in a general way. But people could be extraordinary in one thing and weak in another thing.
That's the first step?
So the first step is the neshama gives the guf a message of how the blood is going to be. Then when the neshama goes into the guf has a huge influence on how the neshama expresses the guf expresses the neshama. And number 3, after the guf controls how much neshama is revealed in the guf, the neshama, which has become so one with the guf that literally one thing rules over the guf.
Does that mean that...
One second. I heard you. I saw your hand. He rules over the guf to such an extent that you don't feel like you have a guf. The Rebbe said when he was sitting shiva for the Rebbe's, and they were very worried about the Rebbe's health. I told this to you. So Rabbi Pekarsky, the Rosh Hashiva, Olav Hashem, mentioned to the Rebbe, he was put up to it, that the Rebbe should watch his health. And the Rebbe's response was spontaneous, Ach bin gesund. I'm healthy. And he explained why. The Rebbe, the Shver gesagt, an gesunder fühlt nicht sein Guf. The Frierdiker Rebbe said a healthy person doesn't feel his body. I don't feel his body. Is a raya that I'm a healthy person. Now by the Rebbe, I'm not sure that's exactly a raya, but that's what he said. Why does a healthy person feel the neshama? Because if the guf does not interfere, the neshama takes over the space of the guf to such an extent that then the guf is neshama sized. It becomes a problem when you become sick. In any way. When the guf has a deficiency and the neshama cannot, so you start to feel guf then. Masha'enken, when you're healthy, the sense of neshama and guf is immortal. You're going to live forever. That's just the way the Eibishter sets it up. So these are the 3 steps.
The first step. What do you mean?
The first step is the neshama gives the guf it's mezik. The second step is when the neshama goes into the guf limits the neshama. And the third step is, after the guf limits the neshama rules over the guf. And the guf operates by the neshama's criteria, by the neshama's rules. And you could also add that the neshama makes the guf better. Okay, Kohen said that your first name is Chaim Shneer Chaim. Go ahead.
If that's the case, then when it comes to Gilgulim, the guf is decided based on the neshama decides the mezek of the guf. And the chayra, each gilgul should be in some way the same makeup.
Okay, you have no idea to what extent what you said is not true. Because you don't understand Gilgulim. It's a whole passion. But okay, whatever makes you happy. Go ahead.
What do you mean by that? The
In this Pedic base, Gilgulim are mentioned.
Yeah?
Did you learn it?
Yeah.
So why are you saying yeah?
I'm saying to what extent?
But he explains Gilgulim exactly the opposite. He explains Gilgulim as Yisurim.
Obviously, it's close.
When the neshama cannot be revealed in the guf, he uses Gilgulim.
I'm saying...
I know what you said, and it's not irrelevant. Go ahead.
The third step, that the neshama rules over the guf.
Right.
But meaning what? I don't like meaning.
That when your neshama is in your guf and you're healthy, your body is literally spiritual. It's not a physical thing ruled by a
Nothing to do with
neshama.
like the fact that the neshama's not naturally kids, right? That's something totally.
Well, that's at the moment doesn't matter. Let's say even the nefesh habamis, but for sure the nefesh halakis.
But you're more of a guf than a neshama, meaning you feel like
The nefesh habamis
physical needs
is
are more.
ruchnius. The nefesh habamis is ruchnius, and people can use the nefesh habamis to understand chochmas chitzenius on the level of geniuses, and it's behema, with the idea that the ruach takes over the geshem. That's all.
So alive is ruchni. Alive.
Healthy living is ruchni.
So then
The minute you
game
become
also-
sick, you start to have
game,
course. Yeah, and animals.
Yeah, okay.
Animals. Go ahead.
When you say healthy, what does that mean?
What does healthy
You're
mean?
saying healthy physically, healthy mentally.
All of those things, all of the above. I mean, I'm older than you. Okay, I'm close to 3 times your age. I have fatigue. I can get up in the morning, and I don't feel sharp. When I was younger, it's a big gullus for me because when I was younger, I never had such problems. My body is funny. If I eat the wrong food, if I didn't sleep properly, my will is deficient. So I have a little bit of a headache. I feel foggy. I feel hazy. That's guf. It's the opposite of the crispness of a person. A person wants to be sharp. When a person is sharp and moving and they feel strong, I don't mean strong that they can punch somebody in the nose. They feel like their life is energized, they're feeling ruchnius. And when they feel heavy, when they feel held back, that's feeling the guf.
Such a word.
Now, I want to just point something, I'm sorry.
You don't mean kedusha when you say ruchnius. You mean
Lav dafti, right? The Rebbe Rashab is very careful to speak about nefesh halakis in the Maimed, as we learned in the Gersh Kedesh Chof Tezvav that we just finished the day before yesterday. The Alter Rebbe has a whole discussion on the koiches, and after he finishes the whole discussion on the koiches, the midas, says do it over again in nefesh halakis. It's very interesting how the Alter Rebbe does it. He does it a second time. Shabbos' Chtanya was nefesh halakis. Same conversation again, nefesh halakis. In this Pedic also, the Rebbe Rashab is very careful to speak about nefesh halakis. He says at the bottom of Hey, at the top of Vav, the emes says Ifa, the nefesh habamis is also lakus. Did you see it? Second line from the bottom of page Hey, Ima yesh emes b'chol haskola gashmius or b'chol inyan gashmi yesh mezeh ha'neshama lakis. He's talking about nefesh habamis, but nefesh halakis is more. But the Rabbi said, I want to show you something more fundamental. I just told you that if you want to talk about the process by which the neshama and the guf become one, there's 3 steps. That's why I presented it to you. The neshama communicates to the guf what it is, then the guf qualifies the neshama at the moment of islapshus, and then the neshama rules over the guf after that islapshus, okay? Points 2 and 3 are the paragraph Vezehu Hasib on the bottom of page Hey, and the beginning of the paragraph Onlam Heivarim on page Vav. The bottom of page Hey, the top of page Vav, is describing how the guf changes the neshama, because the guf takes over the neshama. And the next paragraph, Onlam, describes how the neshama rules over the guf. Those are really steps 2 and 3 that I just gave you in the pnim of the maimed. Step 2 is when the neshama goes to the guf very much limits what the neshama is. And step 3 is, on the one hand, the guf limits the neshama. On the other hand, in a healthy person, you don't feel guf, you feel neshama. The light of the neshama shines through. Okay? Questions or comments? Questions or comments? So the magic word in this Pedic, is hislapshus. The magic word in this Pedic is hislapshus. Hislapshus mean the neshama and the guf come together and they mamish become one. Why? Because they're tailored. And this is be'ikir koiches. Now what about Ratzin? What about makif? And Ratzin and makif is what you and I would call reflex. Instinct, doing things without thinking. In another way, Ratzin is more a sign of life than the koiches. But and that's from one angle. But from the other angle, the koiches are more of a sign of life than the Ratzin because of the hislapshus. The way Ratzin rules over the person shows that the body is living in one aspect, in the aspect of doing things without consciousness, willfully. But on the other hand, when you're talking about the degree to which your body becomes alive because of your neshama, that's primarily because of the union of koiches. The koiches and the neshama match. And the key is hislapshus. Hislapshus mean they come together and they become mamish one. Mamish one.
Hislapshus and pnimius is the same.
Yes. For the purpose of this conversation, yes. They're used in different contexts in other ways, but for this conversation, they're the same thing. Okay? Go ahead.
Where did Ratzin come in? How did Ratzin come?
Ratzin is the Pedic starts at Ratzin and the Rebbe changes the subject. I mentioned Ratzin because when you want to talk about the proof that a living being is not his guf but his neshama, Ratzin proves it in its ways. Koiches proves it in other ways. So I'm simply pointing out that both levels of the neshama contribute to our understanding of this idea of this lapshus. But we're talking about koiches. And the koiches is about the degree of revelation. The neshama comes into the guf, and the guf becomes living with the light of the neshama. And it gives a fascinating mashal. And I've seen this no place else in Chassidus except in this painting. And the exact mashal that he gives is for me'ach shalt al alev. I love it. I push it, love it.
Mashal for what? That's for
slapshus. Me'ach shalt al alev. Now, what does me'ach shalt al alev normally mean?
mind is over the heart. Mind over matter.
The mind rules over the heart. Right? And we add another kvetch. Moyach shalta alev betudosei v'teva yetziras. Moyach shalta alev is in the nefesh habahamet. It's part of your nature. It's not avodah. The mind rules over the heart, and the meaning of the word rules is like a dictator. It forces the heart to do what it wants.
Because it's not like it's forced.
But that's not Pshat and Tanya.
I was actually thinking
In
that.
all the Maimorim of Moyach Shalta Alev, this is the only place I have ever seen in Chassidus that translates Moyach Shalta Alev in this way. The Rebbe Rashab does not translate Moyach Shalta Alev, the mind rules over the heart. The Rebbe translates Moyach Shalta Alev, that the mind teaches the heart. This is the bottom of page Vav. It's a very unusual husband. It's a delicious husband. It's an example of what makes the Ayin Beis special. Really. Moyach Shalta Alev means you have a brain, you understand ideas, and you teach them to the heart until the heart feels. The mind is not forcing the heart, it's not dominating the heart, it's not dictating to the heart, it's raising the heart up. So Moyach Shalta Alev amounts to the mind influencing the heart in the kind of way that the koiches go into the evarim. Koiches haruchnim, evarim agashmim. When the ruchni is the koich ariyah, that he gives the example that he gives is one of the examples is riyah, and the gashmi is the kamezaka ayin, come together, the neshama aspect of the eye and the guf aspect have such a perfect blend. They match so perfectly that the guf, the eye is a living eye. It's not just a piece of flesh that has life in it. It's a living eye. It's a perfect meaning. So it's like the idea of the meaning of the gashmi is the eye and the ruchni, the keich hariyah, is like a teacher and a student. The neshama is raising up the guf to itself. And he gives the example of Moyach Shalta Alev. Now you're going to see in tomorrow's shiur why Moyach Shalta Alev is not like Ruchni is going into Gashmis, because Me'ech Shalta Lev, Me'ech means the physical brain, and Lev means the physical heart. So this, for those who paid attention to Perek Beis, is really a mashal of his slapshus koyach bekoyach, which is tomorrow's shir.
And not what?
And not Ruchnis and Gashmis. It's koyach bekoyach. But the Rebbe uses a mashal to explain it. Moyach Shalta Alev means your brain comes into your heart and teaches your heart to feel what the brain understands.
How can there be two? They're very different. If it's forcing or it's teaching.
It's two different methods.
What's higher? Teaching or forcing?
Of course, teaching is hard.
No, because forcing is rotten. It's it's bottle. It's like it's hakol. I mean, it's like
shalit is not necessarily rotzen. It could be kfir that's not rotzen.
Okay, but you know, it's imagine you're like, overwhelmed by it. Like it's off of. You're overwhelmed and it like kind of like.
Moyach Shalta Alev is not overwhelming. It's like
forcing is
Kabbalah
overwhelming. Like his butt is like.
Is Kabbalah sale? Is Kabbalah sale forcing? Is Kabbalah sale infinite? Seder Nefesh is infinite.
That's higher than the Stam teaching and agreeing kind of thing. That's all that's seichel. That's like that.
In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe talks about a Beinani, and I teach this all the time. And I don't have much time, but I'll cover whatever I cover, and tomorrow I'll talk about the other sugya that I was going to give. In other words, I'm giving you two shurim of this Perek. So are we going to learn everything? No. We'll talk about it. And hopefully it'll be enough. I'll tell you about a Beinani. Talks about a Beinani. Alter Rebbe says, Loi HaMelucha, he has a Melucha v'HaMemshala, he has kingship and domination over the heart. And he says that by a Beinani, the Nefesh HaBahamis never gets any control of Nefesh HaLakista, and Nefesh HaLakista is the only one that has control of Nefesh HaBahamis, and they use the two words, Melucha and Memshala. What's the difference between Melucha and Memshala? Melucha goes along with the word Ratz, and Memshala goes along with the word Kfiyah. The meaning of a king is someone who's a king by will. The people will him to be a king, and he wills to give into the people's will and be their king. That's Melucha. And Memshala is power. A dictator wants to rule over other people. He forces his power over the other people using whatever's at his disposal. His intelligence, his wealth, his power of intimidation, fear, whatever the case is. He uses his strength to overrule people. The Rebbe uses both Lashonos. Why? Because the Beinani's life fluctuates. When the Beinani davens properly, his Avos Hashem, Yiras Hashem, he's like a tzaddik. Like it says, Taket and Yepedik Beis, that a Beinani, when he davens, at least in theory, it's possible that his Nefesh HaBahamis goes to sleep. So the Rebbe says in Ha'ara, the Rebbe writes this in Ha'ara, that's why I'm bringing it up, that a Beinani B'Shas HaTfilah is a melech over his guf. Melech over his guf means the guf accepts beratzen what the Nefesh HaLakis wants. Not b'kfiyah, beratzen. The rest of the day, when you're not davening, then Me'ech Shalta Alev means to control it, b'teva. It's not beratzen, it's b'kfiyah. Because you're not davening, you're not inspired, you're not full of Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem, but there's a roishem that stays from the davening which helps you control yourself. Usually when they bring Me'ech Shalta Alev, they describe it in the second way. Here, he brings Me'ech Shalta Alev and describes it in the first way. Because he wants to explain that when a neshama and a guf get together, it's like a teacher and a student. The minds meet and become one. The spirituality of the soul, as much as it's removed from the guf, and the material of the body, as much as it's removed from the neshama, converge and become one with such a measure of precision and exactitude that the guf becomes living until it slapshes. And again, the two basic steps are, step one, the guf limits the neshama, and step two, the neshama dominates the guf to such an extent that the guf is considered living. Now on top of page Zayin, he gave it the Ma'aseh Mezek. Mezek means that the physical guf of the person's ability to express the neshama has to do with chemistry, has to do with physiology. Some people's guf do not hold seichel well. Some people's guf do not hold the koyach ha'iyah well. Other people's guf hold seichel very well. Other people's guf holds the ability to see very well. Why? Because there's a mezek. If there's too cham v'yavish, if it's too hot and intense, it's no good. If it's too kar v'lach, which is the opposite extreme, it's weiter no good. When you have a mezik and a chayda, when the blend is in between, the guf's Mezek, it means the blend of the Evarim and the Guf is so precise that the Neshama enters it and reveals itself through the Guf in the maximum way, in the best way. Go ahead.
But he's able to change, like, even if it's not like that, he's able to change, right? It's like
You can, but it's very hard. You can, but it's very, very hard.
And that's like in Kataiti, that's what it says, no? Like you work.
Oh, don't Kataiti me. I forgot Kataiti.
Because the word, the Frigga speaks about changing your mezek, discipline.
Change your Mezek?
It says about some people are born with chanyavish, but if they put enough gear, they end up coming out ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not changing their Mezek.
So they're working with their bad mezek?
Yeah. But to change the Mezek is God, it's not posh. So this is what the Rebbe is explaining. Koiches and the Evarim, the Ruchnius of the Neshama and the Gashmius of the Guf, as far as the faculties are concerned, they come together and they meet exactly, perfectly. Okay? So this is why you have in Tanya that you have to have as many parts in the Neshama as you have in the Guf. Although the Neshama is Ruchnius and the Guf is Gashmius, every piece of the Guf is represented specifically in the Neshama, and when it comes out into the Guf, it emerges through the Guf. It's called Islapshus. But we covered a lot of ground. You realize what I just did? I just gave you a summary of the whole Perek Beis. I read very little. The only part I read was not about Koiches, it was about Trotz. But we summarized the whole Perek, that the relationship between the Neshama and the Guf is perfect. The Eibishter makes it so. The Neshama comes into the Guf controls what the Neshama is, but on the other hand, the Neshama controls what the Guf is. And ultimately, through the avodah that a person does in his life, the meaning of the neshama and the guf can be enhanced. More neshama can be revealed if the body can be more refined through avodah and so forth and so on. Okay, questions or comments?
And the difference between the Kecharetz and the Kechas Pingim is just how perceptible that unity is. Meaning,
Kecharetz, there's no perception at all. Kecharetz forces you.
You cannot. Right. Keches Pimim, you could trace it back and say, oh, this is coming from this.
Keches Pimim is the neshama teaching the body. Each time. You know the mashal that I always give? What will be an example for Ratzon for Keches? Walking and dancing. Writing and drawing. Speaking and singing. Speaking is Ratzon. Singing is Keches. Every time you sing, you have to concentrate again. Otherwise, it's going to come out wrong. Walking is Ratzon. Dancing is Koiches. The slapshes.
But why is walking Ratzon? You're forcing your body to. I mean, why is it?
You do it reflexively.
Reflexive is a force?
No, the body is not taking it begilui. The body is not getting be'ezgalos, the will's, the Ratzon's inspiration. It's just moving without the ezgalos. Do you know what would happen if a Ratzon was be'ezgalos in the guf? It would take forever to walk. Why? Just like when you dance, you have to concentrate. If we walk just with koiches, every step would be as much effort as a choreographer was doing a very cute move. We do it without thinking about it. So Ratzon doesn't mean only.
For people that's hard to walk, does it become a koyach?
It depends if it's from the guf or from the neshama. If from the guf, it's a sickness.
But when is it from the neshama? When is walking hard from the neshama?
I don't know. But if it's from the guf, it's from the sickness. I told you this before, that my father told me that the Rebbe went to Fabrengi and explained that there was a professor who decided that he's not going to move any part of his body until he meditates on how it happens. The brain tells the spinal cord sends a message to the shoulder to the arm. He's not going to move any guf organ of his body and limb of his body until he goes through the steps of the electromagnetic messages from the brain to the body. And he lost his ability to walk. He did this exercise.
How do you do it? Just move?
He would move only deliberately. The whole idea of walking and talking and writing is you do it reflexively. That's from Ratzon. Music, art, dance, that's from Koiches. As we're going to see tomorrow in the Shir. Okay? So tonight we learned a very simple thing. I'm sorry?
Why can't he just walk with Keches just like he dances?
You don't ever dance without paying attention.
So why can't you just walk?
Actually, I can dance without paying attention.
Dancing
Because you don't know how to dance. I also can dance without paying attention.
Oh, like real dancing.
Of course, real dancing.
Oh, so anything you actually do that's like different, even like juggling, it's also kayak, no? Because you're moving your hands in a certain way to know.
It's not just koyach. It's a hislap. It's a gili of a koyach.
Right. So any talent is a koyach.
You're right, and you have to focus, to pay attention. You were going to say. So the Chavre, it was a simple shir. The neshama and the guf come together, and the guf becomes alive because of the meeting of the neshama and the guf. How so? First of all, the neshama in Gan Eden already has the Avin Keach Chulub Koyach. Then the neshama sort of presents to the guf how the koyach should work. Then when the neshama goes into the guf changes them. He gashmias the sizes. He says, that goes through a whole pilpul, that when you use your guf to see, you're seeing physical things. And the neshama in Gan Eden sees spiritual things and see physical. I don't know if you know the famous word from Sagi Noah. There was a Rishain whose name was Abitzak Sagi Noah. He was the son of the Ravid.
He's good looking, right?
He was blind.
He was blind.
Oh, that's different. That's a big one, right?
But he could walk in the streets without a cane. He could walk because he could see with Ruchnias. He was completely blind. So it says in Kabbalah, with Chassidus, that Sagi Nod actually means too much light. Sagi means a lot of light. To L'chayr, a lot of light means you should see very well. And the teretz is, to see things physically, the light has to be reduced. Because physicality is a very low level. And if you have Sagi Nod, if you have too much light, you can see, but you can't see physically.
That's why it's white.
The way the guf works is the eye has layers. It's layered. The cornea is layered. Each layer blocks more of the light until the light of the neshama, which is by self ruchnias and sees ruchnias things, is translated to see things physically. It's a huge tzimtzum. That's the guf controlling the neshama, which is the second step. And the third step is that the guf is bottled to the neshama, like it says on page Vav. That whatever the neshama wants, on the one hand the guf limits the neshama, on the other hand the neshama takes over the guf to the extent that the guf itself becomes the neshama. That's just lapshus. What's left for tomorrow? What's left for tomorrow is that when the Rebbe Rashab talks about his slapshus, he mentions derech agav, the idea of his slapshus ke'ech elyon v'ke'ech tacht. Right, there's two concepts in his slapshus. The first concept of slapshus is when the neshama comes into the guf. The second concept in the slapshus is when one koyach of the neshama, like for example your intelligence, has to come through your hand that you write, or through your mouth that you speak, or through your feet that you dance. This is not neshama and guf having together. This is coming one koyach of the neshama, as it is in the guf, being mislabish and another koyach of the neshama, as being mislabish in the guf. The Rebbe Rashab points out different aspects between the two slapshus, and I'm doing that tomorrow in a separate shir. Go ahead.
What's the gather of muscle memory? For example, when someone trains their fingers, for example, to play this certain way, it becomes, they don't have to think about them, it's a kaiches, but it's just instinctive. Or for example, you can say dancing, where they're used to it in a certain way, where they're not thinking about it, but it just moves in that aspect.
Chassidus would always say, I think, that if you're not thinking about it now, there's something wrong with what you're doing. There's a chasad in the echos of the negina, there's a chasad in the echos of the dance. Now, it doesn't matter, maybe you're not for this particular wedding, but in a mitzvah san yonim, there's a chasad. Pneumius has to require slapshus and gila. Has to. Okay? Stop my.
That's some crazy stuff.